At age 14, you were sentenced to 11 years in prison. And I actually looked into the background of this. And well, I guess what had happened was before that happened, at age 13, you were sent to juvenile for 7 months for drugs.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did that 7 months, and that was the first time you got locked up, right?
No. That was the first time I did, time like that.
Okay, so what were you getting locked up before then?
Just little bullshit like truancies, um, drugs here and there, like, stuff like that, man.
Okay, so but you did the 7 months, and when you got out, did it change you at all? Were you like, nah, I'm gonna go even harder this time?
I don't remember. I
Fair
don't
enough.
remember. I just, at that time, again, take it back to the GPS. I didn't have a destination in. So the cat told me a long time ago, I was like, asking for a direction. He was like, well, if you don't know where you're going, then any direction you can go in. You can go. You don't know where you're going. You did. One of them times.
Okay, well, and then the actual situation happened. So you and your friends, I guess, try to firebomb a house of a drug dealer?
No, that's not what happened. That's
Okay,
not
so
what
explain.
happened. That's what they
Explain.
say.
Okay.
Just without going into it too much, man. It was how sometimes cats will go to do a robbery. You know what I'm saying? A cat will go do a robbery and nobody has any intention on doing any harm to anybody because they really there for the bread. That's where they GPS at. I'm trying to get this bag. And they get in there and then one or a couple of them will decide that, I don't know what comes over them and they wind up, enacting some violence. And the other ones that was there didn't necessarily sign up for that shit, but they're a part of it now because it happened in the same building as the rest of the shit they was doing. And that's just in a nutshell what happened with my shit. You know what I'm saying? I wind up doing a whole bunch of time, for not telling on some niggas or whatever, and the shit went left. Not a good part of my life, you dig?
Right. Well, it ended up being the wrong house, and a mother of 6 who was age 25 ended up getting killed.
Okay.
Now, did they tell you at that point, listen, tell us the people who did it and you could walk away or just get a slap on the wrist?
Yeah, like, some juvie shit or something like that.
Was there a reason why I didn't cooperate at that point?
I mean, there's several reasons I didn't. One of them reasons being, like, I feel like that you signed up for the shit. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of shit that people go into and then they try to say shit like, oh, well, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. But the shit that you signed up for led to this and that. So you got to eat it all. It's like we ain't caught, only you caught. So why you got to bring everybody else into it? And I didn't feel like I wanted to do that. At least that was one of the
Okay.
reasons.
I mean, the guys who actually did it.
We ain't gonna go into that. We ain't gonna go into all
Okay.
that.
All right.
Let's not
Fair
go
enough.
into that. Right.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, you get 11 years. And weren't you in the hole in solitary confinement for a while?
Shit, a lot of it. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Okay. So what does that do to a teenager? Because, for example, like I interviewed Michael Franzese, who was a major mafia guy. And I asked him, what was the worst thing he had went through while locked up? Because he did a bunch of prison time. He goes, honestly, the hole. Solitary. He's like, humans are not made to be put in solitary. They're social creatures. Getting put in the hole was the worst thing I went through in my life.
I spent 8 years in prison, 29 months and 7 days in the hole. I was in solitary for almost 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, they kept me in lockdown. And I got to tell you, that's not easy. Regardless of what anybody says, we weren't meant to be solo creatures. We were meant to be social. And I heard when the lights went out at night, you heard a lot of guys moaning and groaning. It was a tough situation. So, I mean, I know what it is to hit rock bottom because I was there for a long time.
I don't know. I kind of feel like I thrived in the hole. I liked it so much I used to do shit just to go to the hole. Because for me, I mean, and I understand that that's his story, but for me, the most shocking thing for a teenager was the violence. And I'm not talking about violence. You get there and you see one small thing, and then you might see this here. Now I'm talking about that shit is, bro, like that shit's so violent, and it's almost like a culture shock. So, and I'm not even talking about just the physical part of it. It's a mental part. Like niggas is extorting folks down there. It's you got cats down there committing suicide. You got cats that ain't eating because niggas is taking all their food. And I, like, for me, I mean, I'm built for that shit. I was a part of some of that shit. But in the reality of it, bro, I wouldn't really own that shit like that, bro. I don't want to see that shit every day. In the whole, I ain't got to see none of that shit. You know?
Okay, so you personally, what was the craziest thing that you personally saw in prison?
That I personally shit so many that I could tell you stories. It was niggas down there used to rape niggas, but it was a fetish for them. Like a nigga, I ain't gonna say no names, and then there was a nigga that used to pretend like he was weak, like would literally let people suck him, like take his food and do shit like that because he wanted people to think that he was weak so he could lure them somewhere and then rape them. That was his shit. That was his shit, man. It was the weirdest shit you had. There was another incident. It was a CO counselor lady that was like really, really cool with everybody and befriended everybody trying to help them get home and get placement for when they got home and stuff like that. And then cats one day, you know, I hear them talking about what they gonna do to the lady. And, you know, niggas talk all the time, but even in my mind, when I heard it, I'm just thinking like, man, I hope these dudes ain't serious. And then the next day, you see they done went down there and killed the lady, and you know, and did whatever they did to her and cut her. Like, it was like, man, I could tell you some shit. Like, I'm talking about like ridiculous shit that you might not even believe. Like when I told the Dahmer story, like niggas ain't believing that, but bro, like, bro, I got some shit I could say, you know.